Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's tip is an awesome one. This is one that I've recognized through my own personal experience, and I've also found out that there's a lot of other pros and top-notch anglers out there that are implementing this same tip to get more bites. It's something you don't hear about much, but it's an easy thing to do that will generate additional bites for you, regardless of whether it's a bladed bait or a hard bait. It does not matter, but this simple tip will increase the number of bites that you get. Before I share it with you guys, I want to remind you, if you're looking for some good Christmas gifts to hand out, check out the links that I have to fishthemoment.com, where you can check out the lake breakdowns that I've done. So if you know somebody that might want a little bit of help on a lake that they fish, you can purchase that. There's 40 waypoints for them. At the same time, maybe it's a one-on-one discussion with me through one of the virtual lessons. So check that out. The links are in the video description. As well as, while you're doing that, make sure you click the link to Bass Fishing Declassified. It's a channel that I'm involved with. Make sure you subscribe to it. We got a ton of really good content that's coming out on that channel as well. So check that out. All right, guys. So this tip goes back to the days when I was fishing a ledge tournament on Kentucky Lake. I was fishing a big spoon, and the co-angler that was with me at the time was also throwing a big spoon, and we were throwing at the same school of fish. I was catching the fish on probably a 2-to-1 basis that he was catching them, and it only came down to a simple thing where we were throwing the exact same bait, except my spoon was hammered and his spoon was flat. What I mean by hammered is, in this case, this is a big ledge buster spinnerbait. This is a hammered blade. So the spoon I was throwing was all hammered. The spoon he was throwing was a flat spoon like this spinnerbait's got. The big key here, and this is something that so many of us have recognized, when you have a hammered spoon or spinnerbait blade, what happens is it breaks up that reflection. So instead of getting one big flash, you get a bunch of little flashes. And that looks much more like a school of bait fish versus one giant flash. And you can tell when you bring your bait through the water, you can see how much dulled down that flash is. And you see a lot of little sparkles, almost like if you were looking at like a diamond and you were flashing the diamond back and forth, versus one giant blinding flash that you can get when you're throwing those giant spoons. So what we found is by doing these, using these baits that are reflecting the light on a much smaller basis, it creates that bait fish school appearance, and we're finding that we're getting a lot more bites. Now, one problem with this, because this is a simple tip, you can replace the blades on your spinner baits, you can replace your spoons with hammered spoons. The problem is they're not everywhere. You can't necessarily just go buy a spinnerbait off the shelf. Most spinnerbaits are coming with, very nice looking, pretty spoons. And I think a lot of this has to do with the sellability to the anglers, meaning, a nice shiny spinnerbait blade looks better than a hammered blade. People just tend to prefer the flat, shiny blades. Well, there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can just search out the spinnerbaits that have those blades. Two, you can buy hammered blades and replace them, or buy new spoons with hammered spoons. Or you can just take a file, or maybe you have like a Dremel tool with a little stone bit on the end, and you can take this and just take your blades and just scuff them up. You don't have to have a perfectly looking hammered spoon look. You can just break up that reflection, by drawing squiggly lines all over the blades. That's one thing I've seen a lot of pros doing now. They're actually dulling down their spinnerbait blades. They're dulling down their chatterbait blades. They're taking files to crankbaits, to jerkbaits. They're just trying to break up that reflective light. And it's a very easy thing to do. This applies to your hard baits too, like I just said. In this case, what you can find is a lot of baits out there, in my opinion, if you look at the better hard baits. So when you look at some of the top brands of the best-selling baits out there, what you'll find is they're not necessarily flat. They actually have a small bump. And I'm not talking specifically about the scale pattern paint job, but I'm talking about the actual mold process. So this is a Berkeley wake bull, which is one of my favorite square bill crankbaits. I'm hoping you can see it, but it's actually ridged. Maybe you can hear my nail on it. You know, it's not flat. There are very fine scale patterns worked in. And what that does is it helps break up that sunlight. That it breaks up that one single big reflective flash into a bunch of little flashes. And therefore, I'm finding, as well as a lot of other top level fishermen, that that is drawing more strikes to your bait. So whether it's a jerk bait, a crankbait, a lipless, whatever it is, you might want to look for the baits that have a little bit of actual etched in scale pattern, similar to your spinnerbait blades that have the hammered look into it. You know, so if you're throwing spoons or you're throwing spinner baits, try the hammered blades. It really does make a big difference in terms of toning down that flash, and it seems like it's getting more bites. That's not just my opinion, it's a bunch of other anglers that I've talked to. So, in the comment section, let me know if you agree with this. You know, again, it's hard to find the hammered blades. Not all spinner baits can come with them. Not all big spoons come with it. So it's one of those things where I think we're kind of being misled based on what looks good, but doesn't necessarily work better for the fish. In my opinion, I'm starting to see the scuffed up blade look, whether it's hammered or somebody's taking a file to it, actually coming into play here and generating more strikes. So in the comment section, let me know. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? I'd love to hear from you guys as well to see if your experience coincides with my experience. Uh, Also, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.